Good evening, folks. Welcome to another session of the Old Wise Asylum. There's bad news going on today, actually. I mean, somebody's telling tales. Somebody's calling me all names and stuff and all sorts, and getting videos took down. And they've only gone and demonetised. Not that it matters because they've never given me a penny anyway, but somebody's really out for getting my little ass in trouble with YouTube. So, I mean, come on, it's just disgusting. It's outrageous. Who could it be? Who could it be? Could it be them weffers? I mean, that's a broad church, innit? Let's be honest, that incorporates a lot of potentials. Anyway, somebody's really not happy. And so, I've communicated with YouTube, of course, because they're not really giving me any examples of what it is. And it doesn't work in sync with the terms, because so I know each video is actually determined whether it's monetizable each time and before it's published. So I don't know what to make of that. Apart from crying and such. But so we've got naughty big bad enemies out there, and they wanted to kick our ass. So they must be from the lunatic asylum. I think that's what it is, because of course we're solving issues without the things. So maybe it's rebellion from the lunatic asylum. Not really impressed with the wise asylum. Anyway, who gives a shit? Anyway, let's wait and see what goes down. But we don't really touch on the sensitive topics, do we? I mean, we just breach around that malarkey and talk about all sorts of nonsense. And it is usually nonsense because, of course, it's not us inventing it. It's the playpen pushing it out as an act. And then people are acting with it, and then it becomes real, and everybody's like, what? But anyway, never mind that. So yeah, that's the bad news of this old week. Anyway, so that's the whinging gone. I thought with tonight, very interesting interview I watched with a guy called Rob, who's clearly not called Rob, really. But he put together some very interesting data, and it was compact, and that's what I liked about it. It's compact, and it's then easier for folks to wrap their head around how you have to approach the situation if you're going to, as it were, present yourself as man as opposed to person. So you're making that distinction. Then we've got the solemn declaration that I've put out a lot. That's a great way for you to present your standing, as it were, and upon which you're presenting to anybody and all of them that are trying to pull you into commerce on the old debt trust. So I thought it was amazing that it was just so compact, and I thought, okay, I'm going to transcribe that, which I did. Obviously the points I'm looking for, the basic structure of it, what it is. And once I put that together, because I like to. If there's an interesting video, I always want the transcript. I want to take out the garbage and just keep what's real, and then away it goes. And so I've done that, and I thought to myself, well, this is a good one actually. It's really compact. It would also be inclusive of the solemn declaration as another instrument. I thought I'd put it out tonight again. It's because interesting. As this interview is going on, you could clearly see that the punters that were on live with them really still weren't getting it, and it's like, that's well broken down. It's very broken down to its basics. I don't see how anybody could be missing it. So they must not have been actually listening to the actual words that were coming out of Rob. But unfortunately, so I just thought sometimes people need it, don't they? Older school, we tend to need it in writing. Younger generations are all imagery and quick and video and whereas the old school, we have to sit there and go, what? And then keep absorbing it, going back to it and absorbing it. But the way you put it together is really good, and it would serve everybody to keep this in your tool bag, especially in relation to any claims that are coming against you. And of course, this works for the whole gig. It's not like, we're going to do it for one part. No, this is you sort of coming to terms with. You say, I'm not this person, you can call it whatever you want, straw man, fiction, all these words we've got for it. We've gone through the difference between person, we've gone through the difference between man, we've gone through it biblically, we've gone through all that, we don't need to. So I'm also going to assume that you're already savvy with that, so you guys should suck this up. But honestly, as a tool in your arsenal for whatever may come, it's perfect for quick and easy. It gives you a get out clause as well. If you just want to sign it off, fine. You're doing it under duress, it's worthless. And again, he's giving you so many little pointers there so that you can actually deal with it if they're at your door, if they're at the side of your vehicle. You know, whatever's going on, you can basically deal with it in this manner very, very efficiently. So we'll have a look at that. And of course, we'll have a look first at what's going on in the playpen, both at Chalker, Westminster, and over there across the pond in Chalker, Washington, DC. And of course, all doing it for the Chalker centres over there in the Vatican. Because, I mean, I've been looking at some of this stuff again. And so, I think what's clearly happened is the empire's merged with the Vatican. You saw that with the Jesuit takeover. So whatever that's representing has been in control of that for cemented in 1963, but probably they had it in place for maybe 50, 60 years before, or at least maybe from the aftermath of the First World War, with all the changes that went on. But it does look like now what we have to start to see and realise is that actually the vehicle itself that they've pulled everything into is actually now the Vatican system itself. Is now, you've got to look at that and say, well, that is now the monster. They've pulled it all in, they've took what was, turned it into something else, and it's now the very thing, as was known at the time of the Reformation, well actually before, when they were dividing up on it because of the nonsense that was going on, is ringing true, that they knew then in those days that it had been chosen and decided, probably by those that they understood as the Illuminati back in that time, that they were actually using. They decided that we're actually going to pull this system together in the Vatican system. So clearly it's been taken over. Well, the sad thing, of course, is it's got all our estates held in what it calls trust. It's a funny idea of what trust actually means, but of course it's all classed as being consensual, as we know. But I think we have to see that that's actually occurred now. It is all being pulled in through that Vatican system. So you're looking at what's going on in the Middle East, then you have to also recognise that the Vatican is playing a huge role, or the force that now is presenting itself to the Vatican is the force behind everything. And, you know, if all these sides are coming in together, it's because they've been pulled in and blagged from the very get-go. So I found something interesting about how he was showing that Roman law is actually the backdrop to Islam as well, which, you know, we know that there's a lot of claims that Rome created that, or rather the North African side of Rome, the Carthaginian side, and that they actually created it all. I mean, you're talking 285 years after the event as such, so there's always more to know. But ultimately, you've got this game going on now where it would appear, from my perspective, that all sides in this melee are basically acting on the orders from the same force, much higher than them all. We can see it in the public as the United Nations. We can see it as the European Union. You can see it in BRICS bloc. And as we sort of explored last week, this Third Rome gig that's been going on since the 1400s is why Russia is always in the frame. When, I mean, going back 100 years, even the Ruskies have always been in the frame. Made so more when sort of the Marxists and the Leninists pulled together a new system called Bolshevism. So once they settled down and sort of like pretty much annihilated all the farmers, starved everybody to death by demolishing the farms and the means to production, realised that they couldn't actually keep it going. So they decided they needed to sort of attract the West. And they did that by opening up from being communist, socialist, almighty state jobbers to let's be a bit more capitalist, In came the money, it carried on. But obviously they built what they built back of that in Russia and then of course off into China. So Russia is playing a major role in this this new system that they're trying to push over everybody. In fact, it's probably one of the main protagonists. If the third Rome has been decided by all parties that this is indeed the third Rome, then, you know, all the sorts of conspiracy that we've heard forever coming out of the intelligence arenas doesn't just hold water. It's actually the tank itself that all the water is in. And of course, you look at what's going on in Russia now, today, this week, I've looked at it again. All the same stuff. I think 18 million have signed up in Russia for the facial and all that kind of recognition system. So that's going on. No different than they're trying to push here in the West. I picked up an interesting video where there's a coffee shop somewhere in the UK. And it's now using a system that it shows it in the video that it's got everybody mapped in a square, so that's customers and staff. So all the staff are being counted for how many people they're serving, what they've served, etc. Each punter is being timed for how long they've been there, and all this is going on in this coffee shop. Well, if that's going on now, that's a test, that's a beta test. They're obviously thinking to put that in all these corporate. So you've got McDonald's, get all these places now where you're going to be interacting with these corporate boys who are going to have these systems in play. So we've actually now got a coffee shop that have got it running, and it's quite creepy. It really is creepy to see. I don't know whether we'll have time to have a look at that, but if we do, we will. But yeah, just creepy. You can just see it yourself. It's creepy. What a creepy system they're hoping to push upon us with these young flea bags. Right. And yeah, it was long and laborious last week. I was nodding off. It were, yeah, so we don't want to do too long like that again. That would be a bit outrageous. But anyway, if you're stuck in there, thanks and well done. That's pretty groovy. So, Mew says good morning, afternoon, evening to everyone, and welcome to the Wise Asylum. Yes, welcome indeed. Lex, evening Sean, the one and all, well, thank you, sir. Slipknot says, alright Sean, alright everyone, alright Trevor. TPI Liverpool, hello brother from Liverpool, we are actively taking down our council. And your knowledge has been a big help so far. Well, good stuff, my good man. Nice one for putting some of it into action. So tonight's might be very, very worthy of a listen. If you haven't already seen this video, probably a lot of you have. I slapped it on my face ache. So if you've looked at my face ache, you'll have seen it anyway, if that's your interest. Paul says, good evening, Sean, and fellow members of the Wise Asylum. Good evening, Paul. And Drew says, evening, oh, we're all chatting. Oh, we've got a right crew going on here. Oh, Northerners, come on. Let's have it. So good, people know each other. Hello, June. How are you doing this evening? PY Music, EDM Sound says, good evening all. Evening, Paul. You says, TPR Liverpool. Oh, groovy on, you all know each other. That's pretty good stuff. And you're active. Even better. We're liking it. Where are we? Warehouse Lock. Hi, Sean. Hello to you. I like the cake there. That's a bit of a good one. Wayne says, hi all. Hope everyone's well. Hello, Wayne. Lex says, when truth is hurled at falsehood, verify falsehood will perish. Oh, sorry, verily falsehood will perish. Keep up your good info. Well, good stuff. Thanks for that. It's always good to know that it is appreciated. And also, thanks for the donations I've had in recent times. You know who you are. So we are. Can we take a moment to wish Sean a happy birthday? Born day, Paul. We don't do births. If you're not listening. Yes, I'm 22. I've reached that age now where you're out of the youth and you've got to start looking forward to grown-upness. So maybe this year it might trigger. Maybe this year it might actually trigger. Who knows? So yeah, I'm 22 teen today. So where's all my presents? I went to my door this morning, nothing. Not even a single UPS thing. So I'm disgusted, actually, but I'm not really. I don't really care. We don't measure time, do we? Because then you start to think, well, I have to stop doing that. I can no longer do that, and I can't think like this. And then you wonder why you get old. You know what I'm saying? I once read a good book, and his overriding mantra was, get up every morning and drop dead. You know? And so what he's actually saying is, every day is a new space and time and measure a moment that you're conscious of because you're not fast asleep, chucked up in your bed. So treat it as brand spanking new. Don't carry any garbage from the past and don't look too far forward. Stay in that moment. And damn good advice, as we've discussed before. Anyway, so happy birthday to me. Born day. I mean, see, even I cock it up. It's a good job you've got to write things down, you see, when you. That's why it's always better writing letters. Because you know what we're all like for being thick? It's easy. We can be thick more than we are not thick. It's just part of the makeup. So if you're writing out things, you can keep going back to it and getting rid of the thick that you couldn't see before. You know what I mean? So whoever invented the pen, fair play to you, you old China. So happy birthdays, oh God. Flying Aquarian like me, yeah. Well, on the side reel, you know, you're Capricorn. That side reel stuff's where you really want to get into it, if I'm honest. So, oh my word, you're all at it now. Oh, right, happy birthday, I've got your present here. I'll see you Wednesday morning. Oh, looking forward to that, the old mate. That'll be good stuff. Good. Where are I? Flip that right up there. Disciple of the Messiah says, peace and grace, Brother Sean and family. Well, peace to you, sir, as well. And happy birthday, and loads of emojis on there. Thank you, really kind. I've got my cake. Here ready for when I've finished. For my sugar rush. I just need it drains you know. Especially if I get excited. So Phil says, comfortably done. Good evening, Sean and chat. Good evening to you, Phil. It's my birthday today, TPR Liverpool says. Oh, well, goodness gracious me, no wonder you're active. See, there must be something in that. Yeah, well, good on you, man. Happy birthday to thee. Over there in Liverpool land. Yep, I've smashed you up in the last 20 years. And put you in the hands of one particular family, chaps. That family that happens to be a stockholder of the Bank of England. The Cavendish. Bigger even so in America. Even bigger. IBM and all that like, now running the Duchy of Lancaster. Of course, the daddy one's gone. He disappeared and missed. And it's a younger gentleman now. And I don't really know much about this young guy, so I can't really speak of him. I don't know anything about him. But of course, he's took on the empire. And we'll look at that again because there's a bit more of an addition to the data on the Bank of England and its stock. Because we need to be looking at the families, don't we? Who are these guys that are going, you will, blah, blah, blah. You know, you've got these farmers. Now you can see now, this farming's not good, these protests. They're running out of food in 3 places over there in Europe. Luxembourg, I think Belgium, and I think Holland. So, who's setting these off? Yeah? You see, the difference between the farmers over there and here is all the farmers here have been subsidised to not grow. So they can't really call themselves farmers. Well, they can because it's a legal term. But they're not looking after the land and they're not feeding the community. So they're going on about now, they've started to rise, they're slowly starting to go, and this face that I put up before, who I quite liked, for quite a while, until I saw 2 particular personages turn up at his house. One was Rees-Mogg, and the other was Portillo. Well, if them are your buddies, then your Privy Council connected, and of course that then, if he gets any more energy, because he is talking right stuff, then, you know, it's not going to be a good thing. And the farmers today, you've got to think twice before you start running around saying we feed the people, because you're not farming, which is why it's all imported. So just be careful on your words, guys, because you want to trip yourself up. We, the people, want you to get a grip here and start realising things are not right. But what you need to do, guys, is go back to how it used to be. Farmers, the land around an area needs to be feeding the people in the area. Let's go back to local. You don't need the subsidy anymore. But it means you're going to have to get off your asses and do a bit of graft. You might not be able to afford a brand spanking new Range Rover super turbocharged Lamborghini GTR'd up with the GTE and the GTS all mixed in. You might not be able to do that. But we all have to work together. Don't be wished off to work for the crown. Because we won't like you. We'll fall out with you. And we know you've got a lot of guns as well. That's not good, is it? So be nice, but don't get fooled, guys, by these fruit bats up there that want you to give them reason to say, oh, we've no food anymore. And now we're at war. It's rations. Can you see the game, how that quickly that fizzes onto this nonsense? You know, they're pulling it all in this war crap. We've been at it again this week. Still not sure why. We're over there. But our biggest prize is Contact. It's Contact, 3 billion quid's worth of nonsense. The aircraft carrier, the Supremo aircraft, it's Contact. It's been months before it's fixed. It's had to go home. It can't play out anymore. Trying to think of a naval film. Sink the Bismarck. So it can no longer take part in the act called Sink the Bismarck. Napoleon's coming next week. Kind of gig. It's going home. It's broken. Not doing very well, are we? And I think that's in the intent. They want the world to go, this Britain's shit now. We can kill it. Anyway. So, keep on getting excited and going on. So the happy birthdays, thank you very much for the happy born days. I forget that you said birthdays, you bad uns. You're not paying attention, are you? Anyway, born day there, Moo says the boy. Good, that's great. Being present is a gift. It is indeed. And that is an important factor to getting along, I think. Yeah, thumbs up. Yeah, hit them thumbs up, chaps, because they keep knocking them off. So if you do like 4 million, then we can see them going on. Anyway, when can we find out what you're up to in Scouse Pool? I'm only in Winners. Oh yeah, Jeff's only half a Scouser, isn't he? Yes. Michael Jr. says, evening Sean, evening all last week was mindful of information. Thanks, Sean. Good stuff, man, innit, that? I mean, it takes some taking in, but it answers so many questions. It's quite... So they've been hiding the feminine side of this place, haven't they? The way they've done that is carve it up, add some more, all the while shoving to the side the feminine principle, so they can move the patriarchal system. Ooh. Ashura, is it not, originally, I think. So, is that the hidden church, the real core of what the church always was? Because as Malachi Martin said, he left because the Jesuit order were no longer promoting anything that he recognised as Catholic. And he left, he wrote books. There are a lot of people who saying he was part of undermining it, and I can't say that I know which way that goes, but you know, you've got to also look at the fact that the flock were leaving the Catholic Church right through the 70s because it stopped preaching love and started to preach authority, and that were enough for a lot of staunch Catholics to leave the church. Didn't mean they'd left the faith. And he also said that the church has just gone underground. He said, which is what it does a lot, isn't it? I mean, you look at Blighty, when the Reformation came on, there's more tunnels under Blighty that were being dug left, right and centre by terrified Catholic priests, Jesuits and all that malarkey. It's, yeah, I mean, you can always understand why these tunnels are everywhere. Like, so you're seeing what's going on in New York. I mean, here, so in Blackburn, when 60s, when they were digging up to build the new town centre, they found a tunnel system that connected all the Masonic lodges and not all the undertakers. Yeah, I mean, what's that all about? Okay, I can understand you don't want to be whizzing bodies around everywhere and sort of like that. It's a good idea to tunnel it, but why then connected to the Masonic lodges? Is it just that they were utilising them because it's with their gig, or let's say post Savile and the likes? It's just more sinister with that kind of thing. So that was the old game, you know. That's how it really were everywhere because of this divide that happened in Christendom. And it was serious stuff, you know. There were hangings galore, let's say. I mean, John Southworth, the undrawn and quartered at Salisbury Hall. And it's like, you know, it's not the best. It's not the best, that. No, definitely don't want to be going back to that malarkey. It's why we're civilised now. We stopped all that because we thought, well, it's just a mess, isn't it? Somebody has to clean it up. Somebody has to clean it up after, and it's just messy. And then I think we realised we weren't really doing flea bags very much, got to watching people getting their neck choked and then pulled off still alive and then put between horses and carved up into 4 pieces. And it's like, ugh. But it did keep them in check. And it kept everybody in check because everybody was shatting themselves. And of course, they're trying to move it back to that now. And their chosen system for control is they want to push this Islamic gaming. Now, I was talking to a Muslim mate of mine today. No, yesterday. Yeah, yesterday. And he was saying, like, you know, this is getting a bit shitty. These immigrants are screwing everything up. He said, no, it's no good, this. So that's good, because the Muslims that are born here and live here and know that you know, this is England and that's what they like about it. Even they're now saying, hang on a minute, what's all this malarkey? Because you can see this low-grade garbage that's pouring in. It'll take off if enough of them get out on the streets and they like their knives. So we have to think. We have to start thinking, boys. It's good. The militia mind is working. I'm seeing guys questioning this mass importation of soldiers, or let's say soldier age, soldier fit. So it's being recognised. Now it's being seen, and males are the ones that are discussing it, and that's got to be jolly good. So keep your ears and eyes out there for people that are talking like-minded like that. And just keep your eyes and ears peeled to any shenanigans going on in your community that you don't like. And basically, deal with it. Rather than running around to the corporations that are actually promoting it, protecting it, funding it. Anyway. What are you up to? Oh, there we go. Yeah, I'm trying to catch up. Michael's in Wales. What's your face say name, Sean? Sean House Young, S-E-A-N. One of mods might put it up for you if you like. Oh no, wait a minute! Don't put any connections onto my anything else, because I think that's part of me prison sentence that I haven't to do that. So, no, don't do it. Don't put any links up to anything else on here tonight, anybody, because I forgot I'm in a prison at the moment of a demonetisation. So, Life to Mix David Dobb. But don't stick it up here. No, don't do that, Paul. Take it off, quick. No, oh my God, Mew, you've put it up. Delete that message, somebody, quick. Delete it. I don't think I'm allowed to do that because it says so. Well, let's connect to this channel anywhere else. So behave yourselves, boys. YouTube, it's not my fault. They're all bad uns. I think they're traumatised from the attack from the lunatic asylum that is ongoing. I just thought YouTube have got sensibility. Anyway. So, say where you scum. Where you scum? Where eh? I've got lost. Mupit, my name is Janie McGovern. Ah, Janie. Oh, it's a lady. Oh, hello, Janie. McGovern. Hey, that's a proper one, isn't it? That. It's Glasgow kind of tackle, that, isn't it? Something very iffy about the history of those Williams tunnels in Liverpool. They're everywhere. I mean, in Liverpool, it was slavery, weren't it? That's the only attachment that Liverpool really has. The Masonic lodges and the slave traders, who certainly weren't Christians. But the Masonic boys and girls did get tapped into it. Anyway, Right, onward and upward. Let's have a groove on. So, this is what I want to... In addition to this Bank of England stock thing, I'm just going to put that to 1 because that's it. So as we looked at, stocks were bought. Marlboroughs we bought them. Lord Shrewsbury. But this is the new data. And it comes from Toby, the United Nations Inspector. He's a good geezer, this guy. The order of the Garter and Privy Council has been, until recently, intergenerational bloodline families related to kings and dukes. They control the Bank of England, City of London, Chatham House, therefore the UN, MI6 and the Church of England, not the Rothschilds. Only one Rothschild made it into the Privy Council, only one became a director of the Bank of England, and none became governors of the B of E or made it to order of the Garter. They were not original shareholders of the Bank of England stock and missed out by 100 years of Bank of England and 200 years of East India. It's amazing how many people erroneously believe, well, just a minute, because I've worked a few things out, that I can just do that and that. Oh, yeah, it should shift over again and stay. So my apologies. I just wanted to put that other one in so that you can actually stop it if you're looking at this stuff. It's amazing how many people erroneously believe that Rothschilds control Britain, let alone the world. There's a big interrelated family in England with different surnames, far bigger than the Rothschilds, all working together to bring about the NWO, or the New British Empire. Even the third generation of Rothschilds were known as Marlborough's boys. You wouldn't be anyone's boy if you controlled everything. Well, Edward VII, Churchill accused him of having his pet Jews, didn't he? And that were the Dangor and the Sassoons and that other one. It is the Marlborough family that created the Bank of England, started Zionism, started World War I and World War II, Nazism and EU and the UN, IMF, Israel and CIA. Well, yeah, he's right, but it was bigger than that because Edward this is coming through all that went on through under Queen Victoria. Now, there's various ideas. Specifically, Greg Allott comes out with a whole plethora of potential goings on. Of course, I've reported them in times because we do need to know, because we need to understand, all of us, that the one thing we do know is that we don't know. We're ever seeking to understand, but ultimately we can't stand up and say we know what's gone on in the background in the private. We don't know anything about the private deals. So we seek amongst what's public and what powers are granted to these entities and what powers aren't. So the Cavendishes, you know, another big bunch related to this Bank of England stock kind of stuff. And remember, they've got a huge power base in the US. And Blenheim Palace is a major centre for that aspect of what we tend to not actually ever discuss about history. They're the ones in the side, that in the background, in the shadows, so to speak. So that was just an expansion on that malarkey, and here we go. Here it is. We're poorly sick. So our team of policy specialists carefully looked at the videos that you've uploaded on the channel. We found that a significant portion of your channel is not in line with our YouTube partner program. So as of today, your channel is not eligible to monetize, and you will not have access to monetization tools and features. While your channel is demonetized, you should not create new or use existing channels to get around these restrictions. This includes using any of your related channels to apply to the YPP or directly viewers to your other channels that may already be monetizing. Doing so could lead to the termination of watching. Also, I think it's just specifically talking about if I had any other YouTube channels. Okay. So there you go. If you believe your channel is suspended from YPP, you have the option to appeal within 21 days suspension. And then you'll see the option to reapply for your YPS days from your suspension. Also, it's a 90-day gig, so okay, that's fair news. Anyway, so I have sort of asked them if they could sort of specify what, or give examples of what it is that's sort of breaching it. Because if I make a video and upload it, it is decided before you publish it whether it's monetizable or not. So there's a big draft of them, but of course I don't know how it works with the live streams because they're pretty much instantly published, aren't they? So maybe, but if we can get some examples, that might be helpful. But there is a third party who's crying their eyes out and causing this havoc in the wise asylum. I don't know. What is the world coming to? On my birthday as well. Anyway, now I know we found the other one to be wanting and completely fake when it came to them slapping Vlad's head on sort of Charlie Boy's image. So we looked at that. Now, this is something I'd pulled out before when I were pulling in images for another subject, but what I thought were interesting. So this is Edward the Eighth rather, the one that abdicated. Now, if you look, Charles has his hand on the white gloves, and yet Edward the Eighth has hold of the white gloves, and he doesn't have the sword. Now that's interesting, is it not? And his regalia obviously is completely different. You know, it's in the main just Masonic. And then here we go with Charlie Boy. He's got all his Roman imperial insignia you can imagine. And you know, the treason in this guy right now is the fact that he's classing himself as head of state while accepting the coronation oath to be enforced, and also the law, which is of course the common law. Yeah, he's upholding that. So it's high treason, the fact that he's claimed himself to be head of state, and of course no mention of England, save for this church away from England, if you go on the etymology, or rather the legal translation of. There's some big changes gone on since 1954. Continued and expanded in this fella on the right. So we need to be paying attention to this because it's a complete scam. You know, and all this shenanigans that's gone on after Christmas, after the failed going on for Christmas gig. But then is it a fail? We're meant to fail in order this next one could kick off, which is everybody feels sorry for them because they're all poorly sick. Nobody wants to play out. They've all run off. Kind of gig. So, anyway, so let's visit the ritual as it stands. Everyone's saying the same thing as Prince Edward announces short break from duties. So he's off. He's had enough. He's had enough. He just can't cope with Andy being such a pervert. It's just outrageous. I mean, it would be if your brother were a pervert, wouldn't it? The Princess of Wales returns home from hospital after abdominal surgery with the polka dot gig on and the flowers for spring to excite the baby boomers to just love her. Hospital stay boosts popularity of King and Princess as Harry and Meghan fall further the polls shows. Oh my word. How's she doing an alien handshake there? An hand signal. That's a bit odd, isn't it? So they're more popular because, of course, it were an emotional canon. That's exactly what it's all about. And King calls on public to join the big help out as he recovers from hospital. So he wants you to get cracking while he goes and sits on his ass up at Balmoral. And here we go with the Robbie ritual. He's continuing into the second ritual. As him and Aura, whomever that may be, lead artist star signings up for star-studded concert in bid to raise millions for fight against wind and rain. And, the pervert is trying to... He says Sarah Ferguson and Prince Andrew would receive King's blessing if they wanted to remarry. Well, I say, with the blue ribbon on. And a new blow for Prince Harry and Meghan Markle as Paul Shaw's popularity continues to plummet. Oh my word. Yeah, you go against the firm, Ginger Prince, and you didn't bother. Now, are we getting to the crutch of this immigration gig here? And it's such scams are a symptom of a deeper malaise. Without leaving the ECHR, we will never get to grips with the illegal immigration, which is correct. and too many churches are facilitating bogus asylum claims. So they're in the mix of that, making it all look brass. They're the ones making the money. And what's happening down at Chalker, Westminster? So as I said, the farmers here have got a bit excited now. A section of an assembly of 1,200 determined farmers who met at Welshpool Livestock Market last night to discuss their intended actions against the government over its proposed disastrous farming measures. No farmers, no food. We agree, but you're not growing, are you? You're subsidised to not. Completely inept, Home Secretary makes an urgent request for $2.6 billion extra funding for immigrants housed for free in hotels, etc. This is on top of the near $4 billion a year already spent. Church of England's in it. Tories making all the mates in circle rich as the country crumbles. And police chiefs have been ordered to prioritise solving more crimes this year in an effort to restore public confidence after the collapse in charging rates. There is no charging rates because there's no crime. Apart from all in Westminster, in local politics, in the police hierarchy, the fact that they're operating for the 21st degree no-had. Meanwhile, the perception that people from these populations are highly sensitive and the majority group members constantly and aggressively police their every word. And this is about rolling your eyes could be a sign of sexual discrimination, civil servants told. It says even autistic responses can be. Yesterday's government announced that offences under new online laws have kicked in, so criminals can face up to 5 years behind bars for their demeaning and dangerous actions. Cyber flashing, epilepsy trolling and fake news to put online abusers behind bars from today. New offences have been introduced. And the Royal Navy scraps major warship patrols around the Falklands. Ireland's naval protection limited to a small offshore patrol vessel as Argentina plans to buy 3 submarines and a stock of warships. Oh my God. The Royal Navy has abandoned major warship patrols in the Falkland Islands because of a ship shortage. And they're breaking. And Britain and US had launched a fresh wave of airstrikes on Houthi targets this week. Biden says US strikes on Iraq and Syria are just the beginning. Really want to attack that Iranian gig, don't they? There's a lot of history in there they don't want out. More than 100 MPs and peers joined to call a ban Iranian terror group. Cross-party statement warns Rishi Sunak that the Islamic Revolutionary Guard, also known as the Iranian Army Corps, poses imminent threat. What, to Blighty? There's no threat to Blighty. There are any Shias here. US and UK are about protecting innocent lives, says Grant Shapps, ITV News. Innocent lives. Where? Where here? Yeah? What's crack? And the Foreign Secretary is on his 3rd visit to Middle East since his appointment in November. He explains his views on Gaza, Trump and why he didn't underestimate Putin. Cameron's message to Iran: you will be held accountable for terrorist attacks. So, whose lackey are we, I wonder? And fresh thinking is needed on the responsibility of citizens to defend their country while enhancing their own skills, says William of The Hague. British complacency over defence has to end. Well, the army didn't ever ask you to reduce numbers, geezers. And this is an odd situation, guys. I mean, I don't know what to make of it yet, but all of a sudden she's back. He's dead, it's all done, big saga, he's back. She's back. And probably going to milk this now as the new hero for everything that's taking place, according to my contacts in these temples. Hi, my name is William Hague. I was the chief investigator to child abuse claims in North Wales in the late 90s, when it became clear that half of Margaret Thatcher's cabinet were involved in an organised paedophile ring. I shut the inquiry down. That's William Hague telling everybody to be responsible citizens, don't forget. It's you that have to be responsible, not them. But they can't. It's impossible. They can't do it. They can't do it. They can't do responsibility. Global playpen. Minors should be eligible for assisted dying. Parliamentary committee says. Okay. And why have I not put up there where that is? Because I'm good like that. I'll keep guessing. It's a test. It's a test, guys. And Germany has issued forth its new style and line in males' attire. Okay. Yeah. The latest fashion trends for men in Germany are finally available. And just as a reminder, because they're using this to death at the minute, Nixon called the moon on from a landline. Just think about that, chaps. And also think about, why is the Earth, being something like 5 point something times bigger than the moon, not covering the entire background of that image if it's real? And Canada has delayed the programme until 2027, which is for assisted suicide for the mentally ill due to lack of doctors willing to participate. Well, that's got to be good news. So the doctors are now kicking off, because I think they've all realised a few things that they probably weren't aware of before. The European Union has drawn up plans to cripple Hungary's economy if it blocks a 50 billion aid package for Ukraine at a Brussels summit this week, according to a new report. So they're going mad. You've got Trump saying, look, you sort your own boards out. You're going to say, you want to pay in to NATO. He's right. German farmers blockade country's biggest airport. This isn't good, folks. They're going to be the cause of the food shortage, the energy shortage, the oil shortage, and everything. So this is a big game going on. It's kicking off in Australia. They're kicking off everywhere. This is Masonic. And we have to see it like that. And the Masons, you farmers need to wake the fuck up, boys. Abolishing whiteness has never been more urgent, says Noel Ignatieff. And he showed him how. If you are a white male, you don't deserve to live. You are a cancer. And there he is, looking very white. Oh. US airstrikes hit 85 Iranian-backed targets in Iraq and Syria. Live. I think we've seen that. There's a video out there showing these tomahawks kicking in. It reminds you of Atlantis, how they had the ability to just hit anybody in the world. And why they said it would be the new Atlantis. A 16-year-old boy was beheaded by ISIS terrorists for missing Friday prayers. He was publicly beheaded as punishment for missing the prayers and warning for others to follow Sharia law. So I think this is what my Muslim friend today is getting worried about. Yeah. And this is interesting. Epstein's secret bank account, he's still moving millions and no one knows why. Because he's not dead. New York Times reported that the bank had 157 in assets when Epstein died back in August, but received roughly 12.9 million in the months afterwards. The account was cleared out and left. Something. And Bill Clinton and Pope Francis called for urgent depopulation to save the planet. They're always calling for it, but they're never offering their own up for sacrifice. So I want to see Moloch on the street, Clinton putting up his daughter, and then put wife up, because she's fucked anyway. Yeah, I want to see Trump getting it up there, his daughters, on all his flea bags. Get him up on there on that Moloch gig. Biden to name John Podesta as climate envoy to replace John Kerry. Well, he's not done a very good job, has he, Kerry? He's shit. It's his skull and bones a bit, that. And replacing a climate cultist with a corrupt pizza lover. Par for course in the disastrous Biden regime. Pizza lover, I don't know what he means by that. Is he referring to Pizzagate? I don't know. John Kerry, we must sacrifice billions of humans to save the planet. I think we need to go with Pope and others, not billions, just millions. We might get better on. He carries a dangerous geezer. But he's off. He's been kicked off the platform because he's rubbish. His daughter's still in there. And Podesta's going in. New Georgia law revives Israel oath for large state contracts. So basically, businesses with significant state contracts have got to sign an oath pledging not to boycott Israel. That's rather worrying. that you could, and then you would wonder who's controlling your system if that's in. I mean, come on, America. It's pretty clear who's controlling your system if you can't get a gig on with your state without signing an oath to another nation 14 million miles away that's actually causing all the hell and havoc. That's not good politics, in my opinion. But who am I to argue with America? Just one for the heroes, basically, and that is they're not very happy with the nutjobs' methods of politics, and there's a bit of an insight into the protesting that's going down. His shock treatment of the economy and everybody else. And he did make a good speech at WEF, but then backed it to the hilt. He's like, this guy's a strange fella. He's an odd fella, and I'm trying to work out what they're trying to do with him. But he's flipping. He flips from... He's all over it, shop. So, I don't know. Is that how he's meant to be? Is he just showing his not quite in control of his little parts correctly? I don't know. It's weird. But some of the videos from before he got in, he was insane. You'd have thought it was some kind of nut job in a mental institution talking about world politics. Anyway, so that's that gig. So that's what's going on outside in the old playpen. And of course, we're not really interested, save the fact that it does actually have an effect. So we have to pay attention to some degree. Right, so, solemn declaration. Recognised by an act of the power of its meaning that's in it. So there would be, for me, is the method by which if you are presenting your standing, then this is the format you would use or consider. And of course, it's important it has an image of you and likeness, because of course, that's what you're declaring. That image and likeness, which is your face, is whatever you're going to write down there on the actual document. Right? So if you're going to use it, just brief yourself with the act itself, why it was formed, what its power is. We've changed it in Australia so that you can't do it. You've got to get a declaration over there, you have to fill in a form. And if any lawyer dares encourage the common law statutory declaration operation, they face up to a $750,000 fine and knocked off the gig. Poverty, on the streets, whacked up on crack. So they're not going for it. So obviously they're all baying it. So you can't use this in Australia. We did investigate that some years ago. Not a chance, matey, unless you fully understood the crack. But of course, this next gig that we're looking at. So there is the instrument that of choice for me. If I am in any way form saying to somebody, "Oi, geezer, just all your assumptions and presumptions are gone. This is who you're dealing with, pal. You may continue if you wish, but I warn thee. Be careful. You don't fall foul of a false claim. Because I'll be on your ass for that." So there's the instrument that you may consider. Now this is the gig that I put together. Can you see that all right? Let's have a look. Is that acceptable? Can you see that? Read up on epigenetics, somebody. Jeds one says, read up on epigenetics. Something very iffy about this, yeah. Tunnels everywhere. Goddamn country's full of tunnels. I mean, I've even seen stuff that suggests that the ones in Cappadocia connect to Scotland. Now, I don't know whether that's right or not. I have no idea. And a big part of what the Roslyn Old Chapel is about. So maybe. So basically, it goes through, you need to define the terms of the situation you find yourself in. So you need to know, what are they operating with that gives them authority? What is their authority? What is it aimed at? And are you that it's aimed at? So that's you defining the terms in relation to this little shindig. So your main point of reference for your common law rights would be the Liberty of the Subject Act. You've got the Bill of Rights. Within there, you've got a plethora of pieces to pick, whichever is relevant to your particular issue. We go through the actual validity of authority of any liability order that's being thrust around today. Because according to its own data, the actual ability for them to have a legal power to offer up liability orders ended in 2003. Your common law rights, which is the rights of the individual man or woman. Okay, so when you're defining terms, you would say to yourself, well, am I man? Am I a woman? Or as I present, it's am I man, not a man? Am I man, male? Or if you're a female, female, because that's the way it's depicted in Genesis 1. And does the letter or claim or those trying to blag me, are they using the term man, individual, or woman? Okay, because if they're not using the term individual or the term man or the term woman, then what are they aiming it at? And are you it? And of course, as we all know, they're aiming it at the person. Well, of course, you're only a person if you don't understand what the person is. When you start to understand what a person is, you realise pretty quickly that you actually don't want to be the person, but you need to understand that you actually have something attached to you that you can actually use if you learn how to use it correctly. At the present moment, that's not known, and so it's all about their game and how they approach you're coming in, identifying as it. So then you're looking at the common law doctrine of agency. So you need to understand the difference of principal agent, what it means in essence. Because the principal is the one that gives the orders, the agent is the one that's there to carry out the continuum of the system. That's its job as an agent. Then you've got the Interpretations Act of 1978. It's a follow-on from an early one as well. But basically, if there are any words that you don't understand in the claim, then you can always refer back to Interpretations Act to see if it's in there. You can go through the Black's Law if you wish. But ultimately, that's if you're looking into the vehicle that they're using, which is a statutory act or multiple statutory acts. Again, can be involved in a particular claim. And that's, you've got to see as their vehicle. That's what they're coming to you and operating, yeah, and enforcing and abiding by. So, of course, if you're not what it is it's aimed at, then there's where you're going to present your standing. In, as I've suggested, as I use an instrument called a statutory declaration. Now, of course, this isn't advice. I'm always presenting to people what I've done myself when I come up against certain things that I have in the days when I used to go out my way to sort of learn things about it. Not so much these days, of course. So the Interpretations Act is a good thing to go for, to solidify what it is they're actually saying to you, its limitations, and thus you can see whether you are outside of its remit, its power, and its authority. And again, you could then cite that. Because once you start to look at these claims in this manner, so you're saying, well, I'm not that, then you've got a cause to actually respond to this claim, haven't you? You have a cause, and that cause is they've approached you on the assumption or presumption that you are something, and that's incorrect, so you need to make that correct, don't you? And you do that by presenting your standing. And so you've got your common law rights is what you're pretty much looking to invoke. And then you've got canons for statutory construction. Again, this is just further explanation of how they construct things, how things are constructed, how they're looking at it. Because once you start to see those terms, you can start to see how you can fall into the traps. You can see that they're using specific words because they want to fix it to commerce. Yeah, but this, like I said, it's a compact system, and it's legitimate, and it's actually, you know, it's your right to know this knowledge, because basically, if you're looking at it, once you start looking at it from this side, you can actually see that it's in there for you to find yourself, in order you can steer yourself or walk on the waters of commerce, as it were, without falling in. So canons of statutory construction is interesting to look at, is to understand better how they're forming it, what they're saying to you. Disjunct canon, that's another canon whereby they used for looking at the structure, again, of communications. And this is, you can see how they're forming theirs. And 3, and you can see how you then need to respond in kind, as it were. Then of the same kind or class, Agisdum Generis, again, another insight into how they're structuring things. And then monster, one who cannot own property, is a definition found within their system. And of course, the definition of a monster, so before that, is a human. Hence the reason why they're banding about with all these human rights, because they completely control it. Because of course, coming in as a human, you're still coming in as a monster, and classed as one who cannot own property. This is why they want all these immigrants in, you see, you know, pulling out and going, oh, my human rights here, and the European human rights there, and blah, 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 blah. Can you see the game? Yeah? Now, also another maxim that they use is, you shall know a word by the company it keeps, meaning the context of the word can also be gleaned by the words in which it finds itself. So the sorry, the narrative, the context of what it's saying. Because they're always looking for ambiguity. Because if there's ambiguity, then it needs a ruling. Now, when I've presented stuff that we do, we always offer interpretations at the bottom. So if we're using a word that we know can be ambiguous, we will define it as we mean it in that communication. Okay, so of course you've cancelled out any other potential meanings, which means you don't necessarily have to get too excited about these. Oh, rubbish. Sorry, forgot myself there. You don't have to get too excited about the canons, but they are interesting in and of themselves, and well worth being at least aware of them. Oh, I seem to have captured it. Sorry, stop it, bananas. Better. And so we avoid that necessity, if you will, if you can't be asked, by just making sure anything that's ambiguous, we are citing our meaning on that communication in an interpretation, or indeed a definition, whichever way you want to call it out. But so again, just to sort of preempt, it's sort of a game in which, or a tool in which you can rebut commercial claims of all kinds. But in so doing, in this particular instance, we are invoking the common law rights. So of course you're going to have to know them. But you don't need to know corpus mounsum. Magna Carta is the start of it, and it moves on from there. And to do this, there has to be a distinction between you, flesh and blood, and the entity to which all the claims are being made. The distinction comes in the fact that you, as the principal upon which all commercial duties, import of excise, customs and obligations are being misapplied due to the fact you are a man, male or female, and not the person to which the claim is addressed. So that's basically the foundation of the distinction that this system gives you the capacity not only to know because you can write it down and communicate it, but you can also, it's there all the time, so you'll just run to this for every communication, no matter what and when. And like I say, it's compact, it's a great tool. It really is a great tool. It says here, comprehension of those rights have to be fully understood, as you are going to be presenting them each time you act. So it's got to be written and it's got to be verbal, but it's compact. Consider that the agent bringing the claim requires a vehicle from which the authority the agent is enforcing is taken, so that's your statutory act. So first you need to know what he's using, that he's claiming to have authority to come to your door. Pretend he's got a liability over you. Yeah, because also, you know, I've not been able to test it, but for me, if one came to the door, it would be more of a case of listen to what he has to say, stop him, hopefully he's brought police with him. If he hasn't, then you get him called. And once the police come, you straight away then are they on your oath? Good, let's see your warrant cards. There, you've cemented the fact that they have said to you, we are there as constables. Their only role there is to then prevent a breach of the peace. You know you're not going to breach the peace, so you're not going to raise your voice. You're just going to be firm in the knowledge you hold. And of course, you can say to these guys, you know, something to the effect, can I ask you a question? Or if it's the case that you are going to present to me a piece of paper with the claim that it is a court document signed off with a wet signature from a judge or magistrate, and you're going to call that a warrant. Is that the case? Because they're going to say, yeah, aren't they? Because they're a bit stupid. So they're straight away, you know, they're going to commit fraud because they're going to present a piece of paper to you. It doesn't have a court seal on it, so it's not a court document. It might have a court logo on it, but that's not a court seal. And in most cases, they're not signed off in a wet signature by anybody on any of the judge's registers. That's just a fact, because that's the way they're rolling, because of course it'd be too expensive if it were being operated by the Lord Lieutenant's system, which is our common law system. So this is a secondary game. You know it if you ask the court and ring before you get a liability claim. If there's any claims against your trust, to which they'll say no, because the courts aren't involved, say, for renting rooms. This we also know. So consider that the agent bringing the claim requires a vehicle, so you need to know what acts he's using. So you're going to be able to breach yourself at least with those acts. Once the act is known, it's essential the act is read to become aware of the remedy within the act itself. So there's always a remedy in these acts, as we've said before. Some people call it a loophole, but it's a remedy. This is why you need a solicitor. The solicitor knows all the remedies, so that you have to go to him, pay him shitloads of money to write letters that you could actually do yourself if you understood that in that act is the remedy. We don't understand it that way, so people just don't believe there's any need for them to read these acts, because of course if they have a problem they're going to go to a solicitor. That's their solicitor's make the gig. In any communication from the system, they will include words that have a commercial term, because it fixes it, you see. And of course, if you're responding, you accept it. The frame of reference for commerce directly invokes duty, imports or excise and customs, and also liabilities and legal obligations. Words within quotations, if you find on any paperwork, fixes the words within the quotation marks as a creature of statutes. That's another one to be aware of. Which is a term of art. It is therefore a fiction. Yep, so anything that you find on any paperwork in quotation marks, they are cementing it to be a creature of statutes as a term of art. So thus is fixing it into the commercial side of things. And words are an imperfect means of communication, is how they approach it, and as such, definitions have to be applied to avoid ambiguity. Now, as I said, you can go through these canons that we'll briefly go through if you want to understand how they're forming communications, so you know how to form yours, or you can work out which words are ambiguous and offer them up as an interpretation. and you pick the interpretation that you mean, because it doesn't matter, you've fixed it then, that's what you mean with that word. There's no need for anybody else to come in and judge it. There's no ambiguity. And so the way that I've operated and suggested you may consider works. It's quick, and but there's nothing ever lost, is there, by actually just expanding your knowledge and working out how they're actually coming. So Interpretations Act, as I said, it's 1978, but it is often an early one as well. For the definition of the word person, you may go there if you wish, because then you can use that in your definitions. Yeah. And then there is no ambiguity as to what you mean by the word person. A negative implication canon, and this is related to the word itself, includes. Okay, so the word includes is expressio unius est exclusio alterius. And it's a Latin term literally meaning the expression of one thing is the exclusion of another. So if they're expressing the word person, yeah, or you, yeah, another term, then there's expressly excluding the word man, aren't they? Okay, so that's how they're structuring it. So includes is excluding everything else. So then it'd be worth looking at some words you're not sure about, looking how the interpreter actually defines it, so that you understand how they're using it. This is a common law principle for construing legislation, which holds that a syntactical presumption may be made that an express reference to one matter excludes all other matters. Other common syntactical presumptions are ejusdem generis and generalia specialibus non derogant. Can't you tell my Latin is just amazing? Oh yeah, I was educated at the top Jesuit college. I'm only kidding. You think you already know because I can't speak Latin. Anyway. So basically, it's a Latin maxim meaning that the expression of one thing excludes others. It is generally used as a canon of construction of statutes or other legal documents, indicating that the express inclusion of one or more things of a particular type necessarily implies an intention to exclude others of that type. So it's important that you actually really do. You see, this is the thing, isn't it? When you get a letter through the post, the first thing is you're in shock, okay? Don't read it, because you're not reading it. You're just going like, ah. And then a lot of people's initial reaction is, get on the phone. No, don't do that. You put it away. You need to relax, because you're not reading it, okay? You're not reading the words. You're just saying, you, fine, money, give, we're going to kill, jail, that kind of stuff. That's all you're seeing, and it's blah, 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 blah. Put it down. Do your thing. Come back to it when you've calmed down. And read every word. What are they saying to you? Because then because you're going to use that as your cause for claim. Yeah? This is the thing. They've done this. You know you're not what it's aimed at. That's your cause for why you have to respond again to them. Yeah? Okay. Thus, if the description of the act is not within the communication, it excludes any other interpretation of the word. Or if the act is not specific to man, and you come in as man, the act has no authority over you. Right? Now, obviously, these are methods where you can just stop them. But again, it has to go further, doesn't it? If you're going to become settler, so at point of that, what you have to do then is you need to understand how you can use the token, which is, of course, what I'm looking at now. All right, so this is all the steps that you'd want to know in readiness for when you want to start acting as a settler and trustee for the trust itself. You with me? So this is only the first part, as it were, and this is how you knock them away. You know, just off you go. You can't get anything here. kind of thing, till you understand and learn the rest of the game. So that when they do send a claim, say, it's fine. Send me the bill and I'll endorse it. So that's, but of course you've got to get somebody in the state to act as trustee. So this is where the ideas of coming in peace, all sins forgiven comes into play. Or the other work method is, I've got you all naughty, collapse the trust, which some people have done. Some most to the disadvantage. I think there are one or two people around that have actually been successful and are quite content. They don't talk about it much, so you don't get to see exactly what it is they've given up. But if they're content, that's all that matters, isn't it, really? Now, your basis for your common law right, if you want, this is outside the Magna Carta, of course, but it's the Liberties of the Subject Act, 1354. And it says that no man, see how the word man, yeah, of what estate or condition that he be, shall be put out of land or tenement, nor taken, nor imprisoned, nor disinherited, nor put to death, without being brought in answer by due process of the law. Okay? Right? So that's a common law statute, that. Can't be repealed. It's there. So the process of law in this case is not statutory law, i.e. commercial law. This is the common law rights of a man. Okay? So that's your fundamental right to come in as a man. Right? To which all common law, English common law rights are afforded. Which means all American common law rights, Australian, New Zealand, Canadian common law rights come from. It's that there. But of course, process of law, if you don't understand this, you would think it means the garbage that's coming at you from every angle. A secondary body of information for your rights, again, if you need to expand them, is the Bill of Rights Act 1688, and specifically on grants and fines before conviction. Yeah, because these liability orders grant fines. But you haven't been convicted, have you? No, they have to get you to come in haplessly into contract. Then the vehicle is active, isn't it? And you don't know your ass from your elbow. It's going to play out its game. So in relation to fines, and several grants and promises made of fines and forfeitures before any conviction or judgment against the persons upon whom the same were to be levied, all which utterly directly contrary to the known laws and statutes and freedom of this realm. That's England, okay? Not UK, not Great Britain, England specific, which is also Wales, okay? Now we're just a reminder of the liability order issue that you've got against all these councils everywhere. Remember, when it's real law, everything has to add up. This is why you need a case management file. This is why they need dates. This is why they're obsessive about everything being in order. Yeah? Because you're putting things together that are going to carry for a long time. So the liability order. It says the court may make a liability order for one person for one amount. It can also make one liability order for more than one person and more than one amount in the form of a schedule. But the note here from the what we need to know here more than anything, because this is the foundation of this liability order gig. Note the Form A, okay, originally provided to draw up liability orders, was removed from law from the 10th of July 2003 in Wales and from the 1st of October 2003 in England. So the very form that's required in order to draw up a liability order is no longer there and has not been sought since 2003. Now these councils have been unlawfully, fraudulently collecting council tax on our ignorance for all this time. That's payable back. Stakeholders. Asda, Tesco, all these big companies that class as stakeholders are taking corporate power are liable. And no form has been substituted in its place. Therefore, the ability to draw up a liability order is no longer there. And the reason probably is because they'd fall foul of the IRS. They should be falling foul of the IRS anyhow. So without any written record of its order or judgment being issued by the court, an order from a magistrate's court may be invalid. And that's on top of the fact that we know these liability orders are not wet signatured. They're not coming on court paperwork. So they're not even magistrates. But even if it is a magistrate's court, the fact that it's a liability order, there's no basis in statutory fact, because the very means in order to draw one up is gone. Does that make sense? And Untitled says, Interpretations Act 1889 and 1978. Quite right, thanks for that, Untitled. Yeah. So this is making sense to you guys. It's quite simple. And this is what you want in your car, this kind of stuff on paperwork. I actually have three case law points on right to the highway as opposed to road as well, but I haven't got them actually in the computer. I unwrote them. Maybe I'm going to have to transfer them because they're very interesting. Because one of the last coppers that I actually had were pulled up by, and I said to him, I said, well, I'm on the highway. Yeah, well, no court's ever gone with that. And I thought, really? But yeah, now there's three. I've got three case law ruled on your right to the highway, unfettered, unobstructed. So that's the liability order, which is very important that you grasp because how can it be a liability order if the means to making a liability order is no longer there in the statutory realm? And as it tells you there, even if you do get a wet signatures from a magistrate, the fact that the form that he would need to order a liability order and thus a warrant is invalid. Now, unless some common law stuff has been going on in there, maybe is why it says may be valid. Invalid. So there may be other ways around it, I don't know. Now, this is just brief on the constitutional law and why it's important that we get it, because it can't be repealed. And this is a case, Thorburn v Sunderland Council, so it's case law. Lord Justice John Laws, in delivering the judgment, acknowledged the coexistence of metric and imperial systems in the 1985 Act, but rejected the idea of implied repeal. He outlined a constitutional framework distinguishing between ordinary and constitutional statutes, where the constitutional statutes, including the European Communities Act 1972, were protected from implied repeal and could only be repealed expressly by Parliament. So what this were about, this were a fight about a shop using the imperial system, and the council wanted them to stop it and use the metric. They said get stuffed. Council got excited, started finding them either and everywhere. So what he showed was that on the weights and measures gig, that it couldn't be repealed by them thinking it were, because they had another act to play with. It says Laws LJ emphasised that the relationship between EU and national law must be judged exclusively by national law. He affirmed the supremacy of EU law in cases of inconsistency with national law, but constitutional statutes such as Magna Carta, the Bill of Rights, Acts of Union, 1707 Reform Act, Human Rights Act 1988, Scotland Act 1998, Government of Wales Act 1988, and the European Communities Act 1972 were not subject to implied repeal. Now, we need to know what that European Communities Act actually says, because if that can't be repealed on this basis, then what does it actually... Is it to do with ECR? No. Is it to do with single currency? No. Is it to do with PESCO? No. And if that's the case, then they can't do it using European statutes. But that needs to be checked out. Okay, I've only just sort of come to that thought as we went through that there. And now, what is the statute? Okay, well, a statute is the creation of the legislature, which is the parliament. And it is a term of art. That's what it is. Now, these councils, okay, and even the government, their authority is prescribed, okay, which means it's limited and designated. Okay, so it's specific, but it's also limited. Now, it says the authority the council hold is limited and delegated. It is a prescription which is a right of claim by presumption or assumption. Okay, so the term prescription or prescribed is a right of claim by presumption or assumption. And what do all councils and all these people have? Prescribed authority. So the only right they have as corporate bodies is the right of claim by presumption or assumption. If we go along with it, we've contracted. Yeah. There it is in black and white for you. It's not a conspiracy theory. That's it. That's, you now know who they are, what powers they have. And what powers they don't have. So they have the right to make the claim, any claim of right on a presumption or assumption. Coppers, council, everybody. That's what they're doing. But their authority is prescribed by a statute, which is limited and designated. Do you get that? Simple terms, and when they're put together in an organised fashion, as this guy did, Rob, I loved it. I thought this guy, he's really done his research. He knows and he's formed himself a system. Like the Solemn Declaration is another instrument. It's you can build a system around it. And I like this because that system also is good for this system. Yeah, as your method of presenting your standing. So, now this is again very important, right? Very important that you get another fundamental premise upon which you must understand who and what they're coming with. And it says they are following practice, okay? So they're doing what they've been doing for ages without a thought for, is that actually procedure? Yeah, as prescribed? Or are they just acting on their own behalf because nobody's pulling them on it? So they are following practice and not procedure. Right? So what you're doing as cause for why you're doing this is you're pointing out that the procedure is not the practice that they are carrying out. Yeah? So that's your cause of action. That you've pointed out, well, wait a minute, guys, you've just made a bit of a mistake here. I understand it's your practice, but it's not procedure. You naughty, naughty little boys and girls. Get to bed. You little shits. It's that kind of gig, yeah? Right? Now, authority, being as it is prescribed for these people, is limited and delegated by the government. But yet the political power of the government derives from the people, as does the monarch. Don't know where this head of state gig's working on. It sounds to me like he just needs permission from the Church of Scotland, Church of England. So all you've got now is full-blown Presbyterians. full-blown trumpets, full-blown Israelis, full-blown all that gig. Ooh. Where are they pulling it? Where is it being navigated to? A ship. A big ship called No-Hide Law. Oh, actually, they're called the No-Hide Commandments. Now, one to start to get to become aware of if you're dealing with the councils is the Local Government and Finance Act, especially Section 8. Okay, because it's the words used. They use residence, don't they? All this malarkey. But in truth, your home is a dwelling. It's not commercial. It's domestic, isn't it? They're assuming with all these taxes they're putting on you, the rates, that you are acting in commerce. And unless you are, then you're domestic. Okay, but more importantly, in case law, it's actually classed as a dwelling. Okay, and a dwelling is a hereditament. Again, this is common law stuff, right? So if your property is not doing commerce, then it's a dwelling, a domestic dwelling. It's not doing any commerce. It's not subject to any authority from any statutory act. So this is secondary again, another fundamental practice not abiding by procedure. You're bringing that to their attention, yeah, in writing. So dwellings, subsection 3 and 4 shall have effect in subsection 6, blah, 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 blah. I'm not going to go through that, guys, because it's just a load of legal jargon, but you do need to know it. So it's basically saying, if the building authority so determines in relation to all dwellings of that class which are situated in this area, blah, 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 right? So again, that's their vehicle, a part of their vehicle, but dwellings is actually a common law term, which means you can be used without fixing it to commerce. Dwelling is an hereditament. Mr. Justice Andrew Baker handed down judgment in Corkish v. Berg, offering welcome clarity on the construction of a dwelling under Section 3 of the Local Government Finance Act 1992, and the proper approach to the splitting of a single dwelling into multiple dwellings. Yet this analysis was supported by first the statutory definition of a dwelling under Section 3, which provides that a dwelling is a domestic hereditament, which includes any yard, garden, outhouse or other appurtenance belonging to or enjoyed with the property, and secondly, by the application of the geographic test laid down by the Supreme Court in Woolway v. Mazars. Hereditament is real property. Originally, it was property that would be inherited by the heir on intestacy. So this is your estate, your land right. Corporeal hereditaments are physical real property, such as lands, buildings, trees, and minerals. Incorporeal hereditaments are intangible rights, such as easements or profits, prendere attached to land. Your trust system, the entire trust system, is based on holding your right to land in trust. There is your right for reversion, both corporeal and incorporeal rights. There it is. Can you see? Now, back to what I was saying before, we've gone through that because what you're going to come to terms with is the fact that they've presented something to you you know is false. So you need to present a letter to them. And that would be a class as a letter before action, which is going to be explaining the cause of action that you're taking. So a letter before action explaining the cause of action, which is, we would have normally used the term notice, wouldn't we? Forget it. This is the one, because it's actually one of the vehicles. And in such so doing, you outlay all wrongdoings, whether that be a breach of duty or anything that means you're damaged, and the liabilities that they have that you don't, but they're presuming you do, or indeed the cause of the action that you're going to take. But what he's saying there is that you will give them a letter. Now in that is where you would present this data. Yeah? And if you started to, your solemn declarations there with the image of, etc., and if you've got that notarized, bingo. Your letter before action should be the one and only incidence that you need to carry out in relation to whatever claim or action is come to you. Are you getting that shindig? Now, understanding the common law doctrine of agency, again, is important because it's going to give you a grasp on the mechanic between principal and agent. It's very important. They understand these terms very well. And it says in 6 of common law doctrine of agency, the agent in a common law situation owes a duty of good faith to the principal. Alright, so if you switch this around, alright, you're the principal, they're the agent, they have a common law duty of good faith to you and must not make undue profit from an abuse of the agent's position. So if you're going for reversion, you don't want to come in and collapse the trust. You're saying, okay, no problem, we'll carry on. I want beneficial share. We'll carry on, we're not going to upset you, we'll keep the apple cart going. Yeah, you can do that. But on the condition that the duty of good faith owed by the agent, the trustee, to you, the principal, yeah, has to be in sync with them not making too much of a profit. Okay? Which they've been doing for a long time. Damages. They owe you. They have to make it right. Okay? They cannot pursue conflicting interests and has to disclose if a third party benefits. Okay? Which is what I've asked YouTube to supply me with, the information. I want to know who the third party is. So I don't want it at YouTube. YouTube are just doing what they have to do because they're on these vehicles. I want to know who's made this claim and I want to know that it's real, because if it's not, they're guilty of tort interference. They've interfered in an existing contract. And if their claims are not valid, in accordance with my rights in common law, then YouTube, you're not in any bother. Excuse me. Ooh. You're not in any bother at all. This third party is. So it's important as a good faith to the principal. It has to be disclosed. Third party beneficiaries. If the agent does not do so, this could be said to be a breach of implied duties. Yeah. So you're not saying to him, I'm going to kick your ass. You're going, gentlemen, there's been a bit of a cock up here. Because straight away you're showing them who you are. You don't want to be kicking off with each other. You want to get to a level playing field. Yeah? And you want that duty of good faith to you, the principal, to be honoured. Specifically in this act here, he's telling you, common law, that it's specifically that they can't make too undue profit from the abuse of your position, of his position. It's subtlety, checkmate, but you're not kicking their heads in. You're not screwing them half to death going, oh, I'm gonna... And it's private. This is you dealing with the state in the private. You're not telling everybody on YouTube. You're not telling everybody on your social media. That's the basic premise you have to come to and understand if you want to ever start to learn this idea of reversion and getting basically shared interest in the trust. Just won't happen. Get rid of the anger. There's no anger needed. This helps you to understand. When you understand something, you're not confused, you're not frustrated. You have a good chance of not getting angry. So again, this is looking into the construction of statutes. You've got a Jesdem Generis, which is mentioned up there. I've obviously put everything that I've mentioned in this PDF. And it's worth reading these canons, okay? So its construction principle of the states that where general words or phrases follow a number of specific words or phrases, general words are specifically construed as limited and apply only to the persons or things of the same kind or class as those expressly mentioned, okay? Again, it's just understanding how they construct the game. Disjunctive canon, again, that's another. Now, it gives you a quick opt-out as well. If you're not doing very well at coming across with this and you just want them to go away. Right? So, signature. It's important. Now, what he brings to the table is, he calls it a commercial code caveat. Okay? Now, if you, without having to explain it, or you've explained it, they've not accepted it, and they're just demanding you sign it, or you're going to get arrested, the way you keep your rights that you've got, you know, and that straight away when you get home, you're going to put together and send to the Chief Constable, right? Because he's basic. The way in order you can get out of the situation and keep that ready for you to go home and write that and send it is you will sign it off as UD 1-207, and then you must write also without prejudice. Me personally, that's how I'd sign it. I wouldn't put anything else in apart from UD 1-207 without prejudice. That's all I'd put. I wouldn't even put a signature. That'd be the signature. Yeah? That's what I'd do. And it's UD stands for under duress. There's a second one, UD 1-307. I can't remember its variation, but if you look it up, you'll find it. So this is commercial codes, by the way. Okay, that's what you want to be looking for. Now, what he mentioned as well, that he sends the V5X and he exercises the caveat right, UD 1-207, without prejudice. Because it ring fences the vehicle. Especially if you put it in a trust in a PO box. So if you want to get that badgering going on and badgered by the coppers, go ahead. That's fine by me. Remember, when they say no insurance, the trust is underwritten by insurance. The entire system is underwritten by insurance. The trust is insured up to the hilt. And there I offer a bit of an explanation on without prejudice, full disclosure, equal consideration, lawful terms, conditions, etc. for your consideration. Now, when you sign off with that method, it's not a signature of acceptance, it is a signature of convenience. And that is an excellent way to describe what you've done if they questioned about it, and you could add it into your paperwork as well. Did you get that, gig? I think that's so compact. It's absolutely superb. Now, I've gone with links here. They're all clickable. I'll put this up under the video. And then I've just added some concepts that may be very interesting. I would have put more up, but I didn't have time. What I may do is add to this document so that when you do come to it, at least anything that is added. Now, you might want to understand what public trustee is all about. Yeah? So there we go, an adventure into understanding the fact of the public trustee. And there's quite a few links. The second one is a general act of parliament applies to the nation state, office holders, persons. Okay? I'm not an office holder. I'm not a citizen of the state. I'm not a person. Again, it doesn't act. So there you go, you can explore that. Very interesting, I'm telling you, there's some interesting stuff in these concepts. Come to understand what this means, a right to vote. You'll be quite surprised. And then look at marriage. A little investigation into marriage so you fully understand what it is. Okay? And then a bit more on marriage, and this ends the PDF that I wanted to present to you tonight. So that, ladies and gentlemen, is exceptionally important if you want to really get to grips. Now, you've got a year left, chaps, to get stuck in on this. Okay, you've got a year. And that is so important for everyone, so you can feel secure in your own foundation when you're setting off doing this, that and the other. Because you're not doing war anymore, you're coming in peace. You're coming in peace because they've put all the remedies out there in the game, and you're coming forward and saying, thanks lads, I've found them, I've sorted them, we're on. Bit better than screaming and striking, having a fit, kicking, telling dog, cat and wife, innit? or husband, because it's usually a lot of women do this, so it's woman kicking husband's head in. So it'd save a lot of stuff, wouldn't it? Let's be honest. Right, chaps, I hope that went down well with Elon. Where are we on this? What have you got to say? So read up on epigenetics was what I got up to. Michael says you don't want anything to do with being labelled a person. No, absolutely not. But then more importantly, you need to know how you present that so that it's got standing in law, in legal, in everything. You bring it to a halt. Whatever it is they're doing, they'll run off and go and play out with somebody else. Because that is how it works. They're always looking for the easy targets. So they'll send a load of stuff out, see who sends it back. People are getting awkward, put them to the bottom of a pile. Yeah? They're not cancelling it out. You've got to do that in the next move, which is what we're looking for right now, and moving into a position where we can actually act as settler and trustee for the trust that was set up upon us being principal. You know, that's simply what it's all about, folks. Remember, your name and surname does not belong to you. It is a trademark. Well, the surname belongs to the church, as we discussed last year, from a papal bull, or no, it wasn't actually a papal bull. It was I can't remember what it was, but it was from the Vatican system. I can't remember what it was called. But the name, as they take it, belongs to the state. But actually, we sort of like thought maybe use the word calling, because what do they say when you're kids? What they call? What's he called? What's they called it, lad? What's they called it? It weren't what's his name. It's what's they called it. It. That's the way it used to be when we were kids. Or they'd say to you, and what's thee called, lad? What's that called? That's what people used to speak. It weren't name. No, they want that word in because they've fixed it. They fixed it in a vehicle. Untitled says endorse and endorsement. Bill of Exchange, 1882. You get that? Two different words. Endorse and endorsement. You get that? Important distinction there, chaps. Have a little look at that. You'll be wiser. Mew says, patronymic, if I'm spelling correctly. It is indeed. It's a family name. But of course, on presumptions, which they have the right to do, it's not. You have to rebut. Can you see how you can't just? You've got to act. You've got to act. But when you're not panicking, when you're not upset or angry, and you know that you're in the right, the only thing you have to do between receiving it, you're dealing with it the first time, is put some paperwork together, bang it off to the chief Aruni, and go, look at what these little shag faggots are doing. A bona fide holder. This is untitled. David says Genesis 1 is still a scam. Well, it is if you go back to Asherah, maybe. But look, David, look, we can sit here all day and say, I don't believe that, and I don't believe this, that's a lot of shit, that don't fit in with my morality. It's fine. You're still in this game, okay, whether you like it or not. And this game has its own rules, its own plays, its own gig, right? And Genesis 1 is a part of that gig. Right? So you can go, meh! Or you can go, I don't care what it is. They believe it. They've fixed the systems on it. Then, what you're doing is you're not interfering with what you believe. That's yourself. You just think, yeah, fucking idiots for doing that. But that's the game. If I want to play in this game, I have to play their rules. To beat their rules. You get me? So it doesn't matter whether it's a scam or nay, but in their system, the Bible is the chief Aruni. End of story. It won't be when they get into the Noahide. Remember that also. But I get your gig, but if you can look at it like that, you've reprogrammed your map to match the territory. And the more your map matches the territory, the more your movements actually have meaning. For you, but also for anybody else that you're playing out with. Untitled says interpretations at 1889 and 1978. Mew says good information for tonight. Good, I'm glad you've enjoyed that, guys. Because when I was watching that thing, the people were still not getting what he was saying. And I thought, bloody hell, it needs to be... I'll try and see if I can explain it even easier. Genius 1 is gig number 1. That's the playground, as Sean would say. And you have an interest in the person, exactly. A shared interest, because they created it. Because they had a charter. But anyway, thanks for joining. Thanks for taking part. Mods, thank you very kindly, as usual. And I will say to you, have a good week. And I will see you till the next time.
Run again.